95% of adverts are taken in subconsciously. Adverts tend to reinforce stereotypes in society in order to push their products. The point of adverts is to sell a fantasy or an aspiration, and a lot of these fantasies are centered around the male gaze. Men and women live in very different worlds in terms of the way stereotypes affect them. It's because the consequences of these stereotypes are not the same for both men and women. Stereotypes of men just gives them more power to oppress, whereas the stereotypes of women impose ways to be oppressed by men. Gene Kilborn in the documentary Killing Us Softly expressed that women's bodies are dismembered, altered, sexualized, and insulted in adverts. This is harmful as it affects how men perceive women in the real world. For example, in this advert,
the women's clothing is surgically placed to hide their private parts while still explicitly revealing their form. The Latinate proper noun invictus means unconquered, which reinforces Kilborn's idea that women are sexually compliant and that men are dominant and sexually precocious. The way the women are vulnerably positioned epitomizes femininity. The theme of conquering women and treating them like sport is only reiterated throughout the ad. The women being presented in equivalence to trophies sends the message that women, like trophies, are important for the status and accomplishment they mark, rather than possessing any intrinsic value. They are a means to be flaunted. Moreover, like trophies, women's sense of worth is a testament to men more than it is to themselves. Because women are prizes and symbols rather than humans, men are taught to see that conquering them carries no consequences, as it is not only the natural order, but their duty to do so.
In a Tom Ford advert, for example, a female was holding the men's cologne in front of her private part whilst completely naked. This is an example of Laura Mulvey's theory of the male gaze, which is the men's perception of women in visual arts. Male gaze is used to sell a fantasy here. Both women and men are affected by the male gaze, such as the Tom Ford ad would most likely grab a man's attention due to the fact that this woman is undressed and obviously seeking for attention. This leads to a lot of men purchasing the product.
Kilborn said that while women are infantilized, girls are sexualized. For example, this Bratz commercial. The refrain of the declarative phrase, "I like how you," reinforces the idea that girls are socialized to base their entire sense of self-worth around men's desires and expectations. Moreover, the active verb strut carries with it the implication that young girls' purpose is to perform artificially for men, even subtly suggesting that the girls themselves should enjoy this and that it is somehow empowering.
In conclusion, although most see misogyny in adverts and sexual violence against women as distinctly separate things, the implicit messages women and men receive every day through advertising have real-life effects. Modern-day feminism has only led to corporations becoming more inconspicuous when pushing ideologies to sell to consumers, but they still exist. Just because it's not an advert from the 50s explicitly saying women belong in the kitchen, doesn't mean it isn't selling a misogynistic ideal. They will simply hide behind the label of empowerment to sell you. Be more mindful as a consumer next time and think, is this billion-pound corporation really seeking to challenge the status quo in which it thrives in?